Why does the man in black want to destroy the tower?
The tower protects both our worlds. If it falls, hell will be unleashed.
Man, get the fuck out of here. Piece of shit. The Dark Tower by Stephen King. So this is not a review of The Dark Tower by Stephen King. I think a review of this series would be pretty redundant. If you haven't read Stephen King, don't start with The Dark Tower. If you have read Stephen King, you probably know how you feel about Stephen King, and these books will not change your mind either way. If you like them, go for it. If you don't like them, don't go for it. There you go. If you want a good starting point for Stephen King, by the way, I got videos about The Stand, Pet Sematary, and 11/22/63. Any of those are good options. All right, let's go. What we're going to talk about today isn't so much the story of The Dark Tower. What we're going to talk about is the story of the story, and how that makes this one of the most unforgettable series you'll ever read, and maybe one of the most powerful too. Stick around till the end. I know it sounds confusing, but I promise it'll make sense. See, every story has a meta story behind it. Everything has a story about how it was created and the process of its creation. And sometimes that's as interesting as the actual product itself. That's why there's so much behind the scenes or making of stuff out there in the world. The most famous example of the story being more interesting than the actual story is probably the movie Apocalypse Now, which is a very famous and highly regarded movie, but there's a documentary about the movie Apocalypse Now called Heart of Darkness that a lot of film snobs say is even better. I don't know. I haven't seen either one, but people say that. So the story of the story is sometimes as interesting or more interesting than the actual story. Cool. What the hell does that have to do with The Dark Tower? Great question, audience member. Let me explain. See, The Dark Tower is a series where anything and everything is possible because anything and everything exists because it's all about a multiverse. There are infinite dimensions, and The Dark Tower is the nexus of space-time. And what this means is that the story of the story can also be a part of the story. Big spoilers about to come in. I'll put like a timestamp or something that you can skip to if you don't want to know. See, Stephen King, the person, is a character in the Dark Tower books, and he's writing the Dark Tower books inside the multiverse of the Dark Tower books. And not only that, the characters go and meet Stephen King, and he sees them and he's like, hey, I write about you. You guys came from my mind. This is freaky. There are also sections of the book that literally read like his diary, like he just copy pasted parts of his diary and his actual life story. It's so crazy. Like, this man went off of the deep end, bro. This man jumped so far over the shark that he went all the way around the world and landed back where he started. It's insanity. The audacity. Who does this? Now, I don't necessarily like the direction he took the story, the absolute insanity of it, but I feel like it almost transcends liking or disliking, because you've just never seen anything like it, and you can't help but be along for the ride and want to see what the hell happens next, because it's just so mind-blowingly ridiculous. And regardless of how you feel, you will never forget it. That much is guaranteed. So talking about the story of the Dark Tower, the most famous story of the Dark Tower is probably the story I gotta find like an acronym or something of how Stephen King almost got hit by a van and died while he was writing the series. This happened after book 4, and it made him realize, oh shit, I gotta finish this series. This is probably gonna be my magnum opus. I gotta get that done. Now, big spoiler alert again. Since Stephen King is a character in the Dark Tower series, the fact that he almost died after getting hit by a van is actually a plot point in the series. Like, they have to stop that from happening. You see what I'm saying here, right? Like, it's madness. There's also a lot of debate about like the first 4 books versus the last 3, like the before accident and after accident parts of the story. Many people, including me, not that it's relevant, think that the first 4 are a lot stronger and that the series ends up kind of meandering and going all over the place in the latter half. But I digress. Back to the actual story of the Dark Tower. The Dark Tower is about a dude named Roland who really wants to get to the tower. He's kind of obsessed, and it's a little freaky. And the end message of the series is that Roland's mindset, his single-mindedness, it's not right. And his journey is one where he goes from single-minded obsession to being willing to throw his obsession aside for the sake of the love that he found along the way. There's also a lot of talk about fate and destiny and stuff like that, but the end message of the series isn't something super unique, and journey before destination and all that. It's been around in a lot of different stories over the years, which makes sense because it's eternally relatable, and I think I'll let a much better writer than I am explain why.
道草を楽しみ大いにね欲しいものより大切なものがきっとそっちに転がってる
Yeah, that quote right there, that's it. That's the Dark Tower. That's the whole series. And because of the nature of the series, the fact that it's a multiverse, the story of how it was made, Stephen King's own life, the fact that everyone has different opinions about where the series peaked and where it went downhill and this and that. It all reinforces the message of enjoying the little detours and the journey being more important than the destination, the love and connections you make along the way being more important than the place you're actually going. That statement holds more truth in The Dark Tower than in any other series, because what journey worth taking doesn't have ups and downs, doesn't have moments that are kind of just padding for time until the next big thing comes along, doesn't have moments that you wish you did differently, doesn't have things that were probably a bad idea in hindsight. The imperfections are what make journeys worth going on. Stephen King's own journey, his mistakes, his highs and lows, his near-death experience, that reinforces the message. The series having ups and downs leading to mixed opinions, that reinforces the message too. The actual journey that the actual characters go on and the things that they learn along the way, obviously that reinforces the message. But the point is, because of how the series is structured and its focus on meta-narrative, I mean, how can you get more meta than the actual author showing up in the books? Anything and everything is part of the message, not just in spirit, but in actuality. All of these things are much more true and much more powerful than they would have been if it took a more traditional path. And it's like, oh wow, Roland learned that the friends you make along the way are more important than the destination. How sweet. And then you put the book down and you forget about it 3 days later. But this, you can't forget this. You can't not have an opinion on this. Now this might sound a little insensitive, but it almost feels like Stephen King's experiences making The Dark Tower were destined to be what they are, because if those things hadn't happened to him, then the series couldn't have meant what it means as powerfully as it does. So those are my main thoughts on The Dark Tower. It's probably the only story where the imperfections actively make the message of the series stronger. Whether I like it or not almost doesn't matter, because I'll never forget the journey, and maybe that's more important. I'll leave you with a quote from another famous author named Patrick Rothfuss. Let me get my drama voice on. Eat your heart out, Daniel Day-Lewis. Anyone can love a thing because that's as easy as putting a penny in your pocket. But to love a thing despite, to know the flaws and love them too, that is rare and pure and perfect. That's it for me. Drop some love if you liked the video. I'll see you guys later.